The BFGoodrich KO3 is probably one of the most hyped all-terrain tires on the market. It has the name, it has the reputation, and for many truck and SUV owners, BFGoodrich is almost the default choice. But there is another tire that keeps quietly showing up in the conversation, the Toyo Open Country AT3. And here's what makes this comparison interesting. They cost almost exactly the same, so forget about brand reputation for a moment. So when we compare the actual performance data, is the legendary KO3 really better, or is the Toyo AT3 the smarter buy? Let's find out. The test data is sourced from Discounts Tires Treadwell data. And immediately, BFGoodrich lands the first big punch. In wet braking, the KO3 stops from 60 miles per hour in 208 feet, while Toyo needs 216 feet. That gives the KO3 around a 4% advantage. 8 feet might not sound enormous, but when you are talking about emergency braking in the rain, I'll take every foot I can get. And wet handling makes the difference even bigger. The KO3 scores 3.5 out of 5, while Toyo only manages 2 out of 5. That translates to roughly a 7.5% advantage for BFGoodrich. So the first round is pretty clear. The winner is the BFGoodrich KO3. And for me, this is already an important result because most all-terrain tires still spend the majority of their lives on paved roads. Now, let's add snow. Both tires carry the serious all-terrain credentials, so winter performance do matters. And once again, the KO3 comes out ahead. In snow braking, the BFGoodrich stops in 111 feet. The Toyo takes 120 feet. That is a 9 additional feet, or roughly an 8% disadvantage for the Toyo. Snow acceleration, however, is completely tight. Both score 2.5 out of 5, so getting moving isn't the problem. The difference appears when you need to stop. And after 2 categories, the KO3 is starting to justify that reputation. But the Toyo isn't finished yet. Next is mileage, and honestly, this might be one of the biggest reasons to buy an all-terrain tire. These tires aren't cheap, so you want them to last. The BFGoodrich KO3 has an estimated median tread life of around 57,000 miles, while the Toyo comes in at around 51,000 miles. That is a difference of approximately 6,000 miles, or around 11% less mileage for the Toyo. So, at this stage, look at what BFGoodrich has managed to do. Better wet performance, better snow braking, and better expected mileage. Those are 3 very important wins. But now we get to the area where the Toyo starts fighting back. In dry braking, the Toyo actually wins. The Open Country AT3 stops in 155 feet, while the KO3 takes 159 feet. That makes the Toyo approximately 3% better. Dry handling is completely tied at 3 out of 5. So, it isn't a huge victory, but it is a victory for Toyo. And it tells us something important. The Toyo isn't simply an inferior KO3, its priorities are different. And you can see that even more clearly when we look at refinement. For quietness, the BFGoodrich scores 3 out of 5, the Toyo scores 2.5. So the KO3 is approximately 2.5% quieter. But ride comfort flips the results. The Toyo scores 3.5 out of 5, while the KO3 scores 3, giving the Toyo around a 2.5% advantage in comfort. So this one is basically a split decision. Want the quiet tire? KO3. Want the softer, more comfortable ride? Toyo AT3. Now we arrive at Toyo's biggest win, fuel efficiency. The BFGoodrich scores 2 out of 5, while the Toyo scores 3.5 out of 5. That gives the Open Country AT3 around a 7.5% advantage. And this shouldn't be overlooked. All-terrain tires are generally heavier and more aggressive than highway tires. So if you're doing lots of highway mileage, fuel consumption can become a real ownership cost. This is one area where Toyo clearly makes more sense. And normally, this is where things get interesting, except for this time. They basically cost the same. In the 265/60 R18 size, the BFGoodrich KO3 costs $315 US, while the Toyo Open Country AT3 costs $317. That is just $2 more per tire, or around 1%. So, is the BFGoodrich KO3 actually worth the hype? For me, yes. And the reason isn't because the BFGoodrich on the sidewall. It is because of where it wins. The KO3 gives you better wet braking, much stronger wet handling, better snow braking, and approximately 11% more expected mileage. Those are exactly the areas I would personally prioritize in an all-terrain tire. And because these 2 tires cost virtually the same, I would choose the BFGoodrich all-terrain KO3. But don't dismiss the Toyo. The Open Country AT3 actually stops shorter in the dry, it delivers more comfortable ride, and most importantly, it has significant advantage in fuel efficiency.
Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.